Hello, hello, hello. We're back with another jewel dropper, ShariahNicole, my friend, my purpose partner. I'm Tiara Jackson, and this is Self-Improvement Month. And I'm the visionary founder of Kingsskid. It's where we educate individuals on how God creates, covers, carries, and crowns us in personal, professional, and mentor-mentee development. Shariah, I'm so excited to have you. I'm so excited to have you. I'm gonna read your bio, but we're gonna get into these questions that I have for you because we need you to drop these jewels. Okay, sis?
Okay.
Okay. So her name is Shariah, but for social media purposes, she go by ShariahNicole. She's from North Carolina with her sights set on seeing the world. She is passionate about inspiring. She loves to share her experiences as a way to cultivate community and empower people to be their best selves. She would consider herself a creative and an educator by trade. She loves traveling, eating good food, and spending time with people who feel like home. One song that is currently on her playlist is Intentional, He's Intentional by Travis Green. It's a reminder that God is always working things out. Shariah.
So fitting.
It is so fitting. So before we get started, I want to ask you the question I asked everybody. What does living a crown life mean to you?
Oh, living a crowned life means that you are operating in God's purpose and will for your life. It's understanding your assignment and it's fulfilling all that He's accomplished you to do. So,
Oh, child. So
knowing
today,
whose you are, okay? Knowing whose you are.
knowing who you are. So I want to talk to you specifically about self-love because you started this journey of getting back to loving yourself. And your journey, it started with the things that people didn't see. But the one thing that they did see was the fact that you had a wedding for yourself.
Yes.
So I want to talk about what prompted your journey onto self-love.
Ooh. Okay. The wedding was literally the icing on the cake, but I just had been experiencing an emptiness, right? And I was seeking things outside of myself to fulfill those voids or fill those voids, and it was never enough. It was literally just never enough. And I got to a space where I was like, I can't operate like this because I know that I'm called for more, but how I'm operating right now, I'm going to stay here if I don't do something different. And they say if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, that's insanity. That's
Right.
insanity. And I remember I had decided to just say, you know what, I need 30 days of just me and God, like me and God. I remember going through that. I remember waking up and just feeling like convictions of like, this isn't good for you. This isn't good for you. You gotta go. You gotta go. I felt all of that. And then I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to heighten my commitments. And so I said, I got a ring and I said, you know what, God, it's me and you. And I woke up and it started off as a joke with me actually throwing myself a wedding. And I said, no, why does it have to be a joke? Why does me proclaiming my love for myself and my love for God have to be something that I hide? And so I just decided to have this wedding and it was great. And my loved ones showed up and they didn't ask no questions. So
And that's the best part because I wish I would have been more in tune with my self-love. I feel like I was forced. And when I'm saying I feel like I was forced, like I had two relationships and then I saw Ed and like, hey Ed, let's hook up. And he like, no, you need to focus on God and yourself. So I had Ed pushing me to do that. But watching your journey and even with me, like I received the invitation and was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. So how would you define self-love?
first, before I answer that question, I do want to say that I was listening to a podcast about journeying home to self. And she talked about writing vows to yourself. And nobody, women don't think about that. Men don't think about that. It's not something that's like billboard, like, hey, make sure you write your vows to yourself today. Like,
I like that.
Yeah. So, but how would I define self-love?
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's knowing that you are enough, that everything that you have within is enough and you don't need anything outside of you. But it's understanding the fundamentals, right? It's knowing that your love should be built on a foundation in Christ, and how God sees you super exceeds anybody else's perspective or ability to love you. So yeah.
So since you've been on this journey of self-love, you told us what it was like before you planned the wedding and started your journey, but what has life been like after, post-wedding?
First of all, it has been incredible. This is the thing though. I think that a lot of times when you make commitments, people are like, okay, this is my commitment. And you think that you're not going to stand on your commitment. However, if you make a commitment and you do it with God and you let God all in your commitment, God is going to make you stand on your commitment. Right. And so it's been very rewarding. It just always hasn't been easy. Like, by me committing to self-love is great because I'm getting opportunities that I don't think I would have gotten before. But it's also like I'm doing work, right? I'm doing a lot of inner work, and that's the work that's not going to go away because that's the work that nobody is going to do for you. Like,
Right.
you can't just pass on to somebody. But it has been rewarding. It has been eye-opening, incredible. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, wow. Like, that's how I feel. Just wow.
Right. So I think with taking that journey onto self-love, it has allowed you to live a life that you didn't even know that was possible on the other side. And I think sometimes when we start commitments, we start it for self and try to do it in our own strength, not realizing that in your weakness, his strength is made perfect.
That's it.
So I think, and I used to be like that because I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have kids. And you know this about me. Like, with me and Ed's store, I wasn't checking to be married. Like, who wants to do that? I didn't want to do it. But then as you get older, it's just like, I do want that commitment, little stability, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Like, okay. So when you started your journey onto like self-love, now what's next for you? Like, are you planning to teach others how to practice self-love? What does your day-to-day looks like now?
So I do have plans to
Okay.
teach people about self-love. The thing is that I made a very specific commitment, and that needs to be fulfilled, right?
Okay.
I am, however, inviting people in on the process to see, like, hey, I made this commitment. And commitment is kind of like I feel like it can be like cute to some people, like, oh, commitment, and then it could deter people, right? So it's just like, okay, look, commitment is a lot of things, but it's worth it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I feel like I'm kind of like a vessel to kind of show the ways in which God is like moving me out the way and shining light on the things that he says yes to. So
he says yes to. So when it comes to you and opportunities, how do you, especially with you and your commitment to God, how do you make sure that the opportunities are in alignment with you and your commitment to God and your journey to self-love, instead of it being something that's like, okay, this popping, this gonna be hot for the gram type?
Right. So it's funny because I actually just kind of experienced this. I had received some opportunities and I literally was like, instead of praying as a last resort, I said, okay, God, look, this is what I have. Whatever is not for me, I need you to remove it, because if I pursue those opportunities, then I'm out of alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be out of alignment. And it's funny because I've been speaking a lot about healing. And so I had an opportunity to basically do a healing workshop that cost money. And I entered a giveaway like several weeks ago, found out that I won the giveaway. So that was just kind of confirmation. And then I'm like in this space, you know, connecting with so many Black women that are like, I want to heal, you know what I'm saying? And then having this opportunity with you, and knowing your foundation and the things that you stand for, I couldn't say no to that, because it's like, you're doing this for the kingdom, you know? What do you, so I think it's just literally praying about it, because every
Mm-hmm.
opportunity is not a God opportunity. It's not a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And that's good, because you have to be able to discern. I think when you're working for the kingdom, it's a different level of expectation. Like, you can't align yourself with anything and everything. And I recently had that. I was gonna sign up to be a part of this podcast, and something was like, listen to this podcast. 30 minutes in, a few, all of the curse words came out, and I was like, oh my God. I was just like, okay, you know, great opportunity, but not the opportunity for me.
Right.
And we have to be okay with that, because I think that takes us out of the scarcity mindset and into the abundance mindset, to where it's like, if it's for me, it's for me. So how has your journey on self-love impacted your relationships, positively and negatively?
Ah. So positively, I think that for one, it has changed my perspective. So now, I'm not willing to just accept anything or anybody. And I'm very attentive to, you know, how I feel after I have conversations, or, you know, what those conversations consist of. And I actually just did a Bible plan about associations matter, in the sense that you want people, you want wise counsel. Like, you want people that are striving to move towards the kingdom, or, you know, glorify the kingdom and things like that. And so boundaries, right? Like, I'm going to love you just off the strength that that's what I'm supposed to do. But that
Right.
doesn't mean that you occupy all of these buckets or all of these spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say that I wouldn't really say there's a negative impact, so to speak.
Okay.
I would just say that sometimes it hurts a little bit, because everybody's not growing with you. And it doesn't matter the length of time that you've known these people or anything like that. If they're not willing to do what they're supposed to do, or
Right.
journey how they're supposed to, or whatever it is, you kind of let them go until they can catch up. Or
Yeah. Right. So I know you mentioned you were an educator. How
yes.
has your journey to self-love, from, because you're educating, what's the grade levels?
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade. So how has your journey on self-love impacted your children? How do you think that will impact your babies at the sixth grade? Because that's a very vulnerable age.
Well, partially, I would say that they contributed to this, right? Because this is the thing. Kids are the most honest people that we could know. There are no filters, right? And so when I started teaching, they would say things to me, and I was like, oh wow, like, you know, it was kind of like, oh wow, like, y'all are honest with me, like, y'all are gonna tell me the truth. I appreciate that, right? And so then I noticed that in the environment, you know, some of those students, they were looking for love at such a long age, or such a young age, because I don't know if they received that, right? And it was kind of like heartbreaking to see at such a young age, they don't even understand their worth or their value or how powerful they are. And I said, you know, a lot of them talk to me, like, you know, they want to prick my brain, and they want to, like, you know, have these conversations. And I need to be an example, because they've taught me so much about how I should operate. So,
so your kids were actually the motivation, one of the motivations in helping you start your journey onto self-love.
yes, 100%.
That's
Yo,
so precious.
I
I know, I know. I'm like, I'm not about to do this on camera. Okay, so for someone that's starting their journey on self-love, what jewels would you drop in their crowns?
whew, I would say seek God first and foremost. I would also say don't shy away from commitment, right? Like take inventory of how you're operating, and really understand whether that is, you know, pushing you forward or making you stumble backwards. Um, you know, just do the work. And by the work, I don't mean going to get jobs or nothing like that. Do the work. Look within, do the work.
Internal work that's
Yeah.
required of you.
And a question, yo, is scary, Tiedra. So I literally, I asked God, I said, please show me what my heart looks like.
Oh,
That's the question that set it off, okay? What? Yes, it
so
did.
show me what my heart looks like.
Yes, because posture is important.
Yes, and we talk about heart posture a lot. So when he showed you what your heart looked like, how did you feel afterwards? Like, were you satisfied, or were you just like, I don't even like the way my heart looks?
Disgusted. You know, it takes a certain kind of, I wouldn't even say it takes a certain kind of individual, because that sounds like it just doesn't sound too right. But to ask God a question like that is already an indication that you want to see change. That's what I'm gonna say. Because I was like, wow. Like, I wasn't a terrible person, but I was like, this is not even what?
Like,
yeah, this is not cool. Like, no.
I don't even like the way this looks.
And people would hold me accountable. When I ask that question, you better believe it.
So you asked God, show me what my heart looks like. And did you have any, because you mentioned accountability, so did you ask any friends to show you what your heart looks like too? Or what was the question?
They didn't have to. It was funny because I was like in situations and I was corrected. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, if I was in friendships with people or something like that and it was very distasteful, God showed me that as well.
So it's kind of like you were put in situations to where you were able to see yourself. This is what your heart looked like in situations like this.
Yep. And what I realized is that everything kind of goes back to you. So if you got these connections or whatever and they're not bearing any fruit, it ain't always everybody else. You got to check yourself and check your fruit. So.
Ooh, because you recognize the tree by the fruit that it bears.
Come on, somebody. What? Okay. Yes.
Ooh, so that's a heavy question. Like, that is, show me what my heart looks like. Like, that is so heavy, because you have to really be prepared for the answer, especially if you don't like it.
But you know firsthand that I was just not really doing too high. Like, I was not feeling it. I was like, something, it's got to move. Like, it's got to move up off me. And the thing is that that's a heavy question, right? But the loads that you're carrying are much heavier.
And that's perspective.
Exactly. So either you want to pack light or you going to keep packing these weights. Packing these weights. So.
Right. And now you feel lighter and you feel better.
I feel sure. Like, I feel like I have a confidence that I haven't had, a love that I haven't had, peace, you know, quality. That's the quality of life.
And so many people don't define in the world, so many people do not define quality of life by the things that you described it. They define quality of life by having tangibles. So car, house, career.
Had all that, lost it all. Okay. And when I lost it all, that's the moment when I started feeling better about myself. If that tells you anything at all. Because look, had the job, had the salary, had the apartment, all the friends, whatever. It wasn't enough.
Because you still had that inner yearning to want more, do more, and be more.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying not to cry. I'm really trying not to cry.
Look, we gotta say those tears for action.
I know. So for somebody that has started their journey on self-love and then kind of veered off the journey, what jewels would you drop into their crowns?
Okay, so the thing about self-love is that you're not always going to get it right. Like, but just know that self-love, or let me say this, not loving yourself is an act of betrayal. And the way that you show yourself you love yourself is by what you do. The things that you're willing to settle for, the things that you're willing to engage in. You want to know how much you love yourself? Take notice. But part of self-love is knowing that you should forgive yourself. Because God forgives, right? And we're not perfect. Be gracious. Right. So, yeah. But not operating from a space of love within self is an act of betrayal.
So don't be out here betraying yourself, in other words.
How you gonna expect everybody else not to betray you if you're betraying
yourself?
Exactly.
Who's the author? How you gonna win when you ain't right within?
Lauryn Hill.
Yes. So you got to be right within in order to win it.
That's it.
So I was so happy you came to talk to us about self-love, and I really appreciate you talking about writing vows to yourself. I think that is so important because before Ed and I started our journey, I did write a set of vows to myself, and it wasn't a set. It was like one vow. I'm not gonna compete or compare when I've already been crowned. This is my
listen.
And I think when you do that, you set a certain standard of what you're going to engage in and what you're not going to engage in. And I think that that's really important. But I didn't even realize I was doing that. Like I didn't now looking back, it is a vow, but I didn't realize it was a vow at the time. I was just like, God, this is it. Like the thing I used to do, I can't do that going into it. I'm going to another level. And I can't, that's not going to work. So I appreciate that. And it's my prayer that people really hone in on this journey of self-love, because when you love yourself, you understand who created you.
Yes.
Why?
Isn't it funny that you made that that vow to God because you're crowned, and now you're teaching people how to live crowned lives? Like, okay, full circle.
Yeah. Full circle. And for such a long time, I knew I was crowned, but I didn't exactly know what that meant for me. And then once I started to operate within it more, it's like, okay, this is crown. This is crown. Nah, this is not crown. So I started to do that, and I appreciate it because even though I'm in this space, it's still important to love yourself and to practice that on a daily basis, because I can't give to it if I'm empty.
Right.
I can't. So, and I think that's important, because to just, like you say, set boundaries. Like that's important to set boundaries. No.
Can't do it today. No. Yo, let's be
not on the schedule.
And you know, but you know.
That part. So how can people connect with you?
Okay. So I actually have a YouTube channel. Um, ShariahNicole, and I have an Instagram where I do some of my writing in the captions. I'm a captions girl. At the ShariahNicole. And I would say stay tuned for my website, you know, where I'll tell you all about my experiences there. There you go.
Thank you, sis, for joining me.
Look, thank you for having me. Okay, you planted the seed.